Nothing can keep me down. I've been attacked by terrorists, asteroids, film critics, music critics, restaurant critics, divorce lawyers, male pattern baldness, and none of it stopped me because I am still Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis used to be untouchable, the guy who crawled through vents, ran barefoot through explosions, and delivered one-liners that made the world laugh. He was the ultimate action hero. Now, he can barely speak. The man who could handle anything is fighting a disease that's slowly stealing him away, and it has no cure. At 70, the Bruce Willis we knew, the sharp-tongued, fearless star, is mostly nonverbal, can't read, and struggles with the simplest things. But the story isn't just about him. His family, Emma, Demi, and all his daughters, are facing a heartbreaking new reality, making impossible choices to protect him. Stick around, because the life Bruce lives now is nothing like what anyone imagined.
You know, what I'm learning is that dementia is hard. It's hard on the person diagnosed. It's also hard on the family. And that is no different for Bruce or myself or our girls. And when they say that this is a family disease, it really is.
If you only know Bruce Willis today through the sad headlines, you're missing the bigger picture. Before the illness, before the quiet exit from Hollywood, Bruce Willis wasn't just famous, he was unstoppable. He was the guy who made you laugh, who made you cheer, and who made you believe that an everyday man could take on the impossible.
What happened? I'm telling you right now. No? Bruce Willis grimace.
Thank you.
The now famous grimace that you're going to see in every movie now.
Every movie.
Look for that movie poster. Yeah.
His big break didn't come from an action movie, but from television. Back in the mid-1980s, a lot of people tuned in every week to watch a detective show called Moonlighting. And it wasn't just any detective show. Bruce played David Addison, a fast-talking private eye who never seemed to take life too seriously. Paired up with Sybil Shepherd's character, Maddie Hayes, the two had this playful, sometimes fiery chemistry that kept fans hooked. People weren't just watching for the cases, they were watching for the banter, the flirting, the spark between Bruce and Sybil.
Does that mean we can save the farm and get Mom the heart operation she needs? It's okay if we only save the farm.
We made money! The first money we've made!
Money we've made, that sounds so much nicer than money we've spent or money we've lost.
Sure does. Well, you are so beautiful when you get fiscal.
Get your hand off my behind.
Is that your behind? Is that my hand? You know, that's what I like about this place. You learn something new every day.
Would you get serious?
Maddie, I just have my hand on your behind. If I get any more serious, they're gonna move us to...
That role made him a household name. Suddenly, this Jersey boy with the mischievous grin and easy charm was everywhere. But it was 1988 that really turned Bruce Willis into a legend. That's when Die Hard hit theaters, and it changed action movies forever. Think about the kind of action stars we had back then. Arnold Schwarzenegger flexing his muscles, Sylvester Stallone mowing down armies with machine guns. They were almost superhuman. Then along came John McClane, a tired New York cop, barefoot on broken glass, muttering to himself as he tried to survive a hostage takeover in a Los Angeles skyscraper. McClane wasn't invincible. He wasn't even particularly prepared. He was scared. He bled. He made mistakes. And that's exactly why audiences connected with him. He was the everyman action hero, someone who looked like he could have been your neighbor, suddenly thrown into a nightmare. And yet, he fought back with grit, sarcasm, and that unforgettable line, "Yippee-ki-yay." That one phrase became more than a catchphrase. It became a cultural anthem of resilience. Die Hard was such a hit that Bruce returned for 4 more sequels over the next 25 years. Every time people showed up because they wanted to see McClane again. Not a superhero, not a soldier, just a stubborn, battered man who refused to quit. And in the process, Bruce Willis didn't just star in action movies. He redefined what an action star could be. But here's where Bruce was different from a lot of his peers. He refused to be boxed in. Hollywood tried to label him as just the wisecracking tough guy, but Bruce wanted more. In 1994, he took a surprising supporting role in Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction. He played Butch, an aging boxer who double-crosses a gangster, and suddenly critics who dismissed him as just an action star had to admit, this guy could really act. And then came The Sixth Sense in 1999. Bruce wasn't running through explosions this time. He was sitting quietly in rooms, listening to a troubled little boy whisper, "I see dead people." His performance as Doctor. Malcolm Crowe was gentle, sad, and deeply human. That film went on to become one of the most talked about movies of the decade, and Bruce was right at the heart of it. That wasn't all. He took chances with sci-fi like The Fifth Element, time travel thrillers like 12 Monkeys, and the haunting superhero drama Unbreakable. Each time, he showed another side of himself, sometimes tough, sometimes broken, sometimes quietly heroic. By the 2000s, Bruce Willis had appeared in more than 70 films. He was one of the biggest stars in the world, the guy you could count on to deliver something memorable. He was funny on set, generous to his co-stars, and carried that twinkle in his eye that made you root for him, both on and off screen. And that's why what's happening now feels so heavy. Because when you think about Bruce Willis, you think about indestructibility. You think about John McClane walking across broken glass and still making it out alive. But behind the roles, behind the grin, Bruce was still human. And it was in those quiet, off-screen moments that the first cracks began to show. It didn't happen all at once. It started as little things, the kind of things you'd brush off if you weren't paying close attention. On film sets, people began whispering that Bruce was forgetting his lines. At first, no one wanted to believe it. This was Bruce Willis, the king of quick one-liners, the guy who could fire off a sarcastic comeback in his sleep. But crew members noticed scripts being rewritten to give him shorter dialogue. Directors quietly adjusted scenes to make things easier for him. And then there were reports of Bruce using an earpiece so someone could feed him his lines. For an actor known for his sharp delivery, that was a red flag. Nobody wanted to wave. Even his family didn't spot the full picture right away. His daughter Tallulah later admitted they thought it might just be Hollywood hearing loss. Think about it. Decades of loud explosions, gunfire, and action-packed scenes on set. It made sense. They hoped it was something as simple as damaged hearing after all those years of filming. Sadly, it wasn't. The truth came out in March of 2022. That's when Bruce's family, his wife Emma Hemming, his ex-wife Demi Moore, and all 5 of his daughters released a joint statement. They announced Bruce would be stepping away from acting, not for a short break, not to recharge. He was done, permanently. The reason? Aphasia. Most fans had never even heard of aphasia. It's not a household word like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, but the explanation hit hard. Aphasia is a disorder that robs people of their ability to communicate. It can make it hard to find words, to understand what others are saying, even to read or write. It doesn't affect intelligence, but it traps the person inside their own head. For an actor whose entire career was built on his voice, his wit, and his connection with audiences, the diagnosis felt almost cruel. Doctors say aphasia often comes after a stroke or a brain injury. But there's another kind, the scarier one, that slowly creeps in over time. It's called primary progressive aphasia, and instead of being caused by one big event, it's the result of a degenerative brain disease. That's the road Bruce was on, even if nobody wanted to say it out loud at first. The family's announcement wasn't just news, it was love. They wanted to take control of the story before gossip and paparazzi twisted it. They wanted Bruce to have dignity, and it worked. Within hours, Hollywood and fans around the world flooded social media with support. Co-stars like John Travolta, Haley Joel Osment, and Sylvester Stallone posted heartfelt tributes. Millions of fans shared their favorite Bruce Willis moments, Die Hard, The Sixth Sense, Moonlighting, and said thank you. It was clear just how much he meant to people everywhere. But behind all the love, the reality at home was heartbreaking. Emma Hemming later talked about how she started to notice her husband fading in little ways. At family dinners, Bruce, normally the life of the room, got quieter. He would drift, almost as if he wasn't fully there. She described it as him melting away, which is about as painful as it sounds. She asked if he was okay, but he brushed it off. Maybe because he didn't want to worry anyone, maybe because he didn't fully understand what was happening himself. That first diagnosis, aphasia, was a devastating blow. But what nobody knew at the time was that it was just the beginning. Because less than a year later, doctors would give Bruce and his family an even darker diagnosis.
Emma, how was it to come to terms with this diagnosis for you?
I think it was the blessing and the curse, to sort of finally understand what was happening so that I can be into the acceptance of what is. It doesn't make it any less painful, but just being in the acceptance is, and just being in the know of what is happening to Bruce just makes it a little bit easier.
For almost a year, the world believed Bruce Willis was living with aphasia. It was heartbreaking, but at least people could understand it in simple terms. He was losing his words, but he was still Bruce. He was still the guy who built his career on charisma and timing, surrounded by his family, keeping a private life away from the spotlight. For fans, it was painful but manageable news. But the truth was about to hit harder. In February of 2023, the Willis family shared another update, and this one cut even deeper. They explained that Bruce's condition had progressed and doctors had given them a clearer name, frontotemporal dementia, or FTD. For most people, that name didn't mean much. It wasn't Alzheimer's, the form of dementia everyone's heard of. FTD was different, and in many ways, crueler. While Alzheimer's usually starts by stealing memory, FTD goes after something even more personal: your personality, your behavior, and your ability to communicate. It attacks the frontal and temporal lobes of the brain, the areas that make us who we are. That means in the early stages, someone with FTD might remember everything just fine, but they slowly lose pieces of their identity. Some people become impulsive, some stop showing empathy, and others, like Bruce, begin to lose their language skills. His original diagnosis of aphasia wasn't wrong. It was just the first sign of this much bigger, more devastating disease. The family called FTD a cruel disease that many of us have never heard of. And they were right. It's not well known, even though for people under 60, it's actually the most common form of dementia. The problem is, it often takes years to get the right diagnosis. Symptoms can look like depression, stress, or even burnout. For Bruce, it took time and painful changes before doctors could give the family the full picture. When Emma Hemming Willis, Bruce's wife, first heard the words frontotemporal dementia, she later admitted she completely panicked. "I remember hearing it and then not hearing anything else. I was free-falling," she said. It gave a name to what was happening, but the name came with a terrifying truth. There is no cure, no treatment. Nothing can stop the progression. The family's statement didn't sugarcoat it. They wrote, "Today there are no treatments for the disease, a reality that we hope can change in the years ahead." That honesty made the announcement even more heartbreaking, but also brave. By sharing Bruce's diagnosis, they weren't just protecting him from rumors, they were bringing attention to a disease most people had never even heard of. Frontotemporal dementia isn't just about losing words. Over time, it starts to take away movement too. People eventually struggle with walking, balance, and even swallowing. It's a slow, relentless decline. For Bruce's family, it meant facing a future where the man they loved would fade away piece by piece, not just his voice on screen, but his warmth at home. The diagnosis changed everything. The fight was no longer just about helping him communicate. It was about preparing for the long, difficult road ahead. And as the family adjusted to this reality, fans around the world couldn't help but wonder, what does Bruce's life actually look like now? Since Bruce Willis's frontotemporal dementia diagnosis, life inside his family has completely changed. The man millions remember as the fast-talking, wisecracking action star from Die Hard is no longer the same. These days, the Bruce his family sees is quiet, often trapped in silence. His wife, Emma Hemming Willis, shared in a recent ABC News interview that his brain is failing him in ways no one could have prepared for. "The language is going," she said softly. Bruce, once known for his sharp wit and endless one-liners, can no longer hold conversations. Reading is gone too. Imagine being someone who lived by scripts for decades, only to lose the ability to even read them. But the changes don't stop at speech. His body is being pulled down by the disease as well. Motor skills, walking, balance, and even coordination have become daily struggles. For a man who once jumped from exploding helicopters on screen, even walking through his own home is a challenge now. This decline forced Emma to make what she calls one of the hardest choices of her life: moving Bruce into a separate home. Not because of a lack of love, but because of too much of it. Their two young daughters, Mabel and Evelyn, needed a safe, steady environment. Noise, laughter, and activity, normal things for little kids, can actually overwhelm someone with FTD. Emma realized she was shutting the world out, canceling play dates and family events, just to keep things calm for Bruce. That's when she knew something had to change. So, they moved Bruce into a nearby one-story house designed for his care. Wide hallways, fewer obstacles, round-the-clock professional help. It was all about keeping him safe. The decision broke Emma's heart, but as she explained, Bruce would have wanted it this way. He would have wanted his daughters to grow up in a home that felt like their home, not one built around his illness. When some people online criticized the move, Emma didn't hold back. She clapped back on Instagram, saying people who have never cared for someone with dementia don't get a say. And she's right. Unless you've been in those shoes, you don't understand the weight of it. But don't picture a cold, lonely care home. That's not what this is. Emma and the girls are there constantly. Breakfast, dinner, bedtime. They've woven visits into their routine so Bruce still feels wrapped in family. Emma explained, "We are there a lot. His world may be smaller, but it's filled with love." In this new reality, connection looks different. It isn't about conversations anymore. It's about touch. Holding hands, hugs, kisses. Emma says Bruce still recognizes her and their girls. "I know he does," she insisted. When they sit with him, he lights up, his face softens, and sometimes, just for a moment, you see him, the man who laughed the loudest in the room. But those moments are fleeting. Emma described it as catching a spark of the old Bruce. Maybe his big, hearty laugh, maybe the little twinkle in his eye. But then, just as quickly, it fades. It's just hard to see, because as quickly as those moments appear, then it goes, she admitted. For his daughters, the grief is complicated. His daughter Tallulah takes endless photos and saves every voicemail just to hang on to pieces of him. She once described it as mourning someone who is still physically here, but slipping away in front of your eyes. That's a different kind of heartbreak. And through it all, Emma has stepped into a new role she never wanted: advocate. She speaks for caregivers who feel invisible, carrying the burden of fear and uncertainty every day. Experts say Bruce likely isn't aware of his condition because FTD damages the part of the brain that controls self-awareness. So the heavy truth falls completely on the family. But here's the part that will surprise you most. Even in the middle of this slow and painful goodbye, Bruce's family hasn't fallen apart. They've done the opposite.
Happy birthday, dear Dad.
Just like that dog.
Happy birthday to you.
Right at it.
His wife, Emma Hemming Willis, his ex-wife, Demi Moore, and all 5 of his daughters, Rumer, Scout, Tallulah, Mabel, and Evelyn, have closed ranks around him. From the start, they made it clear, this fight isn't just Emma's, it's all of theirs. Every update about Bruce's condition has been signed by the whole family, a public show of unity. Demi, who was married to Bruce for more than a decade, is still a huge part of his life. She visits often, posting photos of quiet moments with him, showing that their bond has never really broken. Emma has carried the heaviest load. She calls herself Bruce's care partner, and it's a role she takes on with grit.
Care partner, it's so important to be able to ask for help and support. And, you can look to organizations like the AFTD, like Hilarity for Charity, who, it's a sort of a great starting point. And, it's important for care partners to look after themselves so that they can be the best care partner for the person.
She's been open about the loneliness and fear that came with his diagnosis, admitting there were days she didn't know how she could keep going. But instead of giving in, she's turned her pain into purpose. She started Make Time Wellness, and she's writing a book, Unexpected Journey, Finding Strength, Hope, and Yourself on the Caregiving Path, due out in September of 2025. She says it's the guide she wishes she had the day the doctor said, FTD. The daughters have found their own ways to cope. Tallulah takes endless photos and saves old voicemails just to hear his voice. Scout shares heartfelt tributes. Rumor made him a grandfather, giving the family a bright spot in the middle of the storm. Together, they've asked the public to learn more about FTD, a disease that desperately needs more research. In their words, if Bruce could speak for himself today, he'd want to shine a light on others going through the same thing. And that's exactly what his family is doing, keeping his spirit alive, even as his voice fades. If Bruce Willis's story and his family's incredible strength have touched you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more stories that matter. Share your thoughts and your messages of support for the Willis